Alright, welcome back to another packet tracer activity. This is 623, configuring a multi-router EIGRP network. So we've been given a network here, and we need to configure all these LANs that are connected to the routers. The serial connections between the routers have already been given to us right here. So we need to find out how many subnets we need, the number of hosts for each subnet, and we'll design the addressing scheme and configure EIGRP. So we're given the range of 172.16.0.0/16. So that range would go from 16.0.0 to 16.255.255. So that's the range we have, and in that range we are going to need 8,000 IP addresses for R1 LAN 1, 4,000 for R1 LAN 2, 2,000 for R2 LAN 1, 1,000 for R2 LAN 2, 500 for R3 LAN 1, and then 200 for R3 LAN 2. And once again, here's our serial links that's already configured on the routers. So how many subnets are needed? Well, we already have the 3 between the routers, and then there's 6 more LANs. They each get their own subnet, so we're going to need 9 subnets. The maximum number of IP addresses that are needed are the 8,000 for R1 LAN 1, and we just went through this. 8,000, 4,000, 2,000, 1,500, 200. So that makes a total needed of 15,706. But in this /16 network, there's going to be a range of 66,558 IP addresses in there. So we'll have plenty of room. So we're going to start with R1 LAN 1 because it was the largest subnet. We need 8,000, so the smallest subnet that we can use for that is a /19, which is 8,192 addresses. So what I did, you can use, I checked my work as well with like an IP, a subnet calculator online. But what I did was just took out a calculator. And so you know that with a /19 you have 8,192 addresses available. So then I divided that by 256, and that gave me 32. So let's see, I'm trying to explain this. So 256 would be one, you would increment, after 256 addresses, you would increment from 172.16.0 to 172.16.1. So we're going to end up doing that 32 times. So I've got the sheet here that I filled in. So we let's see, here it is. So we're going all the way to 31.254. So that 32 that I got from doing that math let me know that I need to go from 0 to 31 because that's 32 spots to find that range. And I just verified that with a subnet calculator. So then we go down to R1 LAN 2. And so that will start at 32.0 is the network address. The subnet mask is 255.255.240.0. and that's just, let's see, so how I got the subnet mask for LAN 1, it's a /19, which means it just means that usually, so the 16 would be 255.255.0.0, but it's a 19, so that's 3 more bits. So those first 3 bits would be 128, 64, and 32, and you add those together to get 224. So that's where you get that. So for LAN 2, you've got 4 bits of that third octet are going to the network bits. So you got the 4 bits would be the 128, 64, 32, and 16. So that's where you get 240.0. So once again, LAN 2 needed 4,000. So the fewest you can do is 4,096. I divided 4,096 by 256, and you end up with 16. So that's why I have 16. It increments 16. This third octet increments 16 for all the addresses. And then it's kind of the same thing. Once you get the hang of getting that, you add another, for the LAN 1 on R2, you needed, it's a /21, you needed 2,000 addresses. You can get 2,048 with the /21, so you add another subnet mask bit, which is another 8, so that's why we're at 248 now. And so that gets you 2,048. Divide that by 256, you have 4, so you know that divide 2,048 by 256, you'll get 8. So that's why I'm incrementing this third octet up 8 from 48 to 55. R2 LAN 2 needs 1,000 IP addresses. So you can do that with a /22, which will give you 1,024. So you'll end up with 22. A /22, so you have 22 bits for the host, for the network, which you add another 4 to get up to 252, and that gets you 1,024 addresses divided by 256 is 4. That's why I incremented at 4 in this third octet. LAN 1, you need, on R3, you need 500 addresses, so you can get 512 if you do a /23. That gives you the this is a /23 subnet mask. Is a 255.255.254.0. Dividing 512 by 2 by 256 gets you 2. That's why I have the 60 and the 61, just 2 numbers in that octet. So you have 256 here and here to get you the 512, and then all the way down to R3 LAN 2. It's our familiar /24 subnet mask, which is 255.255.0, and it's just 62.1 to 262.254 for usable addresses. So that third octet doesn't change because we just have the 256 addresses in that one range. Hopefully that wasn't too confusing. It was kind of difficult to explain, a lot of numbers, but once you get the hang of the first couple, it's pretty simple to keep adding. You can always verify your math with a subnet calculator or something like that. Alright, so now we're moving on to assigning our addresses. So we've got the first valid host in R1 LAN 1 subnet to FA00, which is right here. And all of these were first valid host, first valid host, first valid host. So you just have to pop down here. So R1 is going to have LAN 1 and LAN 2 on FA0 and FA1. And they were all like that. So R2 is going to have LAN 1 on FA00, LAN 2 on FA0/1. So you just have to go down here, find them, and plug them in. And then LAN 3, this is 60.1 is on 00, 62.1 is on FA01. So you just fill in that chart, and then we can go on to assign them. So I've made a little script here, and you can see this is how we would assign them. You would enable configure terminal, go into interface FA00, type IP address, and then the subnet mask, and we'll do a no shut to make sure that port turns on. Go into the other interface, give that the IP address with the subnet mask, no shut, and end. So let's go ahead and do that for all of them. And router 2. And then router 3. Alright, so we should be at 60%, and we are, so we'll move on. And now we're going to put on our EIGRP. We need a routing operation that supports variable length subnet masks, small and infrequent routing table updates to reduce traffic, and fast convergence in event of a failure. So that is going to be a good use of EIGRP. So we will configure the routing protocol on R1 first, and we are going to want to advertise all the networks. So there's going to be this one here, this one here, this one here, and this one here. There's going to be 4 of them. And we're going to use autonomous system number 1. So if we're right here on R1, we'll do configure terminal, and then we need to enter router EIGRP1, and then all 4 networks. So we have the 172.16.00, and if we look at this one, you can see it right here. These are the IP addresses, but you can, just by looking at those, you can find out what the network address is. So this one is 0.0, next one is 32.0. For the serial port, this is 202.0, and then this one would be 202.4, because these subnet masks are 252, which means there's going to be 4 addresses. So the bottom one is going to be 0. The broadcast is going to be 0.3, so that means this one is going to start at 0.4. Broadcast is going to be 0.7. Same thing here with router 2. The first two are pretty easy. Then you got to look at the second two to figure out that a .9. The networks are going to these serial port networks are going to end with .0, .4, or .8. Those are the three networks that we have. So that's the .8. This is the .0. This is the .4, and this one was the .8, which we have over here. You always have to remember to put in your subnet mask right after your network on EIGRP. So let's go ahead and plug these in. Here's router 1. And router 2. And router 3. Alright, so now that we've got that all the way done, we can just look at the IP routes for some of them. So at R1 here, we can do show IP route. And you can see we've got D is our EIGRP. So you can see our three EIGRP routes. You can see our directly connected routes with their correct subnet masks, or with CIDR notation on it. It lets you know here we've got our big network is variably subnetted. So it looks good. And here's router number 3. So there you go. That was got 100% completion here. Everything checked out. So that was configuring a multi-router EIGRP network. Thank you very much for watching.